$2,000. That's what Samsung wants you to spend on a phone that folds in half. And honestly, for a while, I was actually tempted. But here's the thing. I already bought one. I bought the Z Fold 5 back in early 2024, and I genuinely loved it for about a year. That big, beautiful screen was unlike anything I had used before. And then everything fell apart. Literally. The screen failed, the hinge gave out, water got in, and I was left with a very expensive paperweight. So today, I want to talk about the Galaxy Z Fold 8. Samsung is expected to launch it later this year, and the early leaks are actually interesting. But I'm not getting excited just yet. Because before I even think about spending that kind of money again, Samsung needs to fix some very real and very frustrating problems. Problems that have existed since the very first Galaxy Fold. Problems that millions of foldable users have complained about for years. So let's break it all down. What went wrong with my Z Fold 5? What Samsung keeps getting wrong generation after generation? And exactly what the Fold 8 needs to deliver to win me back. For years, I refused to buy a foldable phone. I watched from a distance as early adopters complained about cracked screens and broken hinges. I saw the horror stories online. Screens fading after a few months, dust getting under the display, hinges loosening over time. I told myself it wasn't worth it. But Samsung kept improving things with each generation. They added better hinge protection, stronger glass, and improved water resistance ratings. Eventually, I convinced myself that the Z Fold 5 was good enough to take the risk. And for the first several months, it genuinely was great. The big inner screen made watching videos so much better. Multitasking on that display felt like using a mini tablet. I was really starting to enjoy the foldable life. Then I dropped it a few times. Nothing dramatic, small drops, the kind any regular phone survives without a scratch. But those drops apparently did something to the internal structure of the device. The hinge shifted slightly, the rubber seals around the screens got compromised, and the waterproofing started to fail silently. I didn't even know any of this was happening. Then one day, I accidentally dropped my phone into a foot of pool water. I grabbed it out within seconds. I dried it off immediately and tried not to panic. The phone turned on, and I thought I had dodged a disaster. But the damage was already done inside. Over the next day or two, moisture caused gradual oxidation on the internal components. And then the phone just died. Completely dead. I took it to a Samsung service center, and what they told me next was genuinely shocking. The repair cost problem is real. The logic board was completely fried. And because I hadn't bought Samsung's extended care plan, I had zero warranty coverage for this type of damage. The repair estimate came back at nearly 1/3 of what I originally paid for the phone. We're talking close to $600 for a single repair on a phone I had owned for just over a year. To put that into perspective, that's close to the price of a solid budget flagship phone. I was furious, but I also had no real choice. I paid for the repair, and the moment I got it back, I immediately traded it in for a Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. And I haven't touched a foldable since. Now, I'll admit, dropping the phone was my mistake, but here's my problem with that. A $2,000 premium smartphone should handle life better than that. Regular slab phones take drops, survive minor water splashes, and keep working without needing component-level repairs after a year. The bar for a foldable at this price should be at least as high, if not higher. And that leads me to the first thing Samsung absolutely must fix in the Z Fold 8. Fix number 1. Real durability. Not just marketing words. Samsung loves to talk about armor aluminum and IPX8 water resistance ratings. And I believed those claims when I bought my Fold 5. But what those ratings don't tell you is that a few minor drops can silently compromise the internal structure of the phone. And once that structure is compromised, those protection ratings mean very little. The newer foldables added IP48 dust resistance on top of the water resistance, which is a step forward. But the core problem remains. Foldables are still fragile compared to regular phones. The hinge is the biggest weak point. It's a complex moving part, and every time you open and close the phone, there's mechanical stress involved. After thousands of folds, the wear adds up. For the Fold 8, Samsung needs to go beyond just making the phone thinner and lighter. Thin and light sounds great in a press release, but it doesn't help me when my phone breaks after a year of normal use. I want to see stronger, more resilient hinge engineering. I want real-world durability that matches the price I'm paying. That means the phone needs to survive everyday life without treating every minor drop like a catastrophic event. Fix number 2. Parts need to be affordable and actually available. Here's something nobody talks about enough. Even if you're lucky enough to get your foldable repaired, finding the parts can be a nightmare. When my Z Fold 5 broke, my local service center didn't have the components in stock. I had to ship my phone to a different region just to get it fixed. That added time, cost, and stress to an already painful situation. Foldable phones have small, unique, and intricate components that are simply harder to source than standard phone parts. And because fewer people own foldables compared to regular smartphones, the supply of replacement parts is very limited. Samsung has started a self-repair program in some markets, which is a good move. But it's only available in a handful of countries right now. The Z Fold 8 launch is the perfect opportunity to expand that program significantly. Make parts affordable. Make them available in more regions. Give foldable owners a realistic path to repair their devices without spending a fortune or waiting weeks. If Samsung can do this alongside the Z Fold 8 launch, it would go a long way in restoring trust. Fix number 3. The battery situation has to change. This one really gets under my skin. With my Fold 5, I was reaching for a charger by mid-afternoon on most days. On heavy use days, I was charging twice. Morning charge, then again in the evening. That is not acceptable for a phone that costs this much. The Z Fold 5 came with a 4,400 mAh battery. And here's the wild part. The Z Fold 7 still has the exact same 4,400 mAh battery. 3 generations later, and the battery size hasn't moved at all. Meanwhile, other foldable makers are putting significantly larger batteries into their devices. Some Chinese foldables are shipping with batteries well above 5,000 mAh and still maintaining competitive thickness. So the excuse that a bigger battery would make the phone too thick doesn't fully hold up anymore. Now, I understand that the newer Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset is more power efficient than previous chips, and that efficiency does help squeeze out more screen time from the same battery capacity. But efficiency improvements alone are not enough. The bigger battery paired with a more efficient chip would make a real, noticeable difference in daily use. I'm talking about going from anxiety charging mode to actually finishing a full day with battery left over. That peace of mind matters more than shaving another 0.5 millimeter off the thickness. For the Z Fold 8, I want to see Samsung finally commit to a meaningful battery upgrade. The rumored Z Fold 8 wide variant gives Samsung an even bigger canvas to work with. The larger form factor naturally allows for more battery capacity. Use that space well. Samsung can't play it safe anymore. Look, I want to be clear about something. I don't dislike Samsung. I think the Z Fold 7 is a better phone than the Fold 6, which was better than the Z Fold 5. The cameras have genuinely improved, with the Z Fold 7 reportedly getting a 200 mAh main sensor that matches the S25 Ultra. The design is thinner and lighter. These are real improvements, and I acknowledge them. But they're not enough to justify the price or the risk for someone who has already been burned. The competition is not standing still. Motorola is making solid foldables at lower price points. Multiple Chinese brands are pushing boundaries with aggressive specs and larger batteries. And if the rumors about Apple working on a foldable iPhone are true, Samsung will face its toughest competition yet the moment that product launches. In that environment, making small, safe updates from one generation to the next is no longer a strategy that works. Samsung has the resources, the engineering talent, and the manufacturing scale to solve these problems. The Z Fold 8 is a real chance to show that they've actually listened to their customers. Fix the durability. Make repairs affordable and accessible. Give us a battery that lasts a real day. Those 3 things would genuinely change my mind. So that's where I stand right now. I'm not writing off the Galaxy Z Fold 8 completely. I'm actually watching the leaks closely and staying cautiously hopeful. But hope alone isn't going to make me spend $2,000 again. Samsung needs to prove it with real meaningful changes, not just a thinner frame and a camera upgrade. If you've owned a foldable and had a similar experience, I'd genuinely love to hear your story in the comments below. And if you think I'm being too harsh on Samsung, tell me that too. I'm open to the conversation. If this video gave you something to think about, please hit the like button and share it with anyone who's been considering a foldable. Subscribe if you want to follow along as we get closer to the Fold 8 launch. I'll be covering every major update as it comes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.